Hi guys, my name is Habiba and I'm a newbie here in Canada. Greetings from the beautiful city of Dartmouth in Halifax, Nova Scotia. My family and I relocated to Canada from Nigeria about 9 months ago, and I'd like to share my story. I do hope that in sharing my journey and my experiences that I'll be able to inspire someone to make the move to Canada, because it can be, a daunting experience. I also hope to provide as much information as possible so you can ask me questions. So without further ado, welcome to Biba's Journey. So our journey formally began in April 2018 when my husband planted the seed about coming to Canada. Prior to that, I had never given the whole Canada move a thought. I mean, we know quite a few people that had moved to Canada and had settled down, but we just never thought about it. But when he brought it up, then we thought, okay, why not? Let's explore this. So the first thing we started doing in April was actually to determine if we're eligible to come to Canada. Now, there are several streams and pathways available to come to Canada. Canada right now is a very immigrant-friendly country. There's a business pathway and there's a federal skilled worker pathway. So when we did our research, we settled for the express entry. One of the reasons why the express entry seemed attractive to us was the option of residing in any province in Canada apart from Quebec. We wanted to have that option, and so we went for the express entry. The first thing we did was to determine our points, because as you know, or if you don't know, that the express entry is a point-based system. So this express entry system is a system set up by the Canadian government for the application of migrants that are going to come to Canada. It's for skilled and experienced migrants. So it's a point-based system based on certain criteria that has been set by the Canadian government. So we sat down to calculate our points based on this criteria. You get points for your age, your work experience, your educational qualification, and obviously your English proficiency exams. So we did that. Once we did that, it became clear that we were eligible. Back then in 2018, the cut-off point was about 440 points. So what this means is that if you get a minimum, based on that criteria, if you get a minimum of 440 points, you stand the chance of getting an invitation to apply, to come to Canada. So we knew that, if we get between those, the 440 points or above, we stood a good chance. So we started. Another thing we had to do was to determine who the primary applicant was going to be. Now, if you're a single applicant, it's a no-brainer, you're the primary applicant. But if you're coming as a couple, as a family, for us it was a family of 3 because we have a little toddler, we had to determine who was going to be the main person. Again, it's advised that both the couple should individually go through the criteria and score themselves. Now, it doesn't matter who the primary applicant is or who the supporting spouse. It could be anyone. The important thing in deciding who the primary applicant should be is that the primary applicant should be the one that can score the most points based on the criteria given by Immigration Canada. So we did that, and based on the points that came up individually, it was decided it made sense for me to be the primary applicant. So with this, the preparation phase, we got started. So once this was decided, we now had to get into the planning phase proper. So the first thing we had to do back then was to evaluate our credentials. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the express entry is a skilled worker. It's a skilled worker stream. So you're expected to have a degree or a couple of years work experience, and you get points for that. So based on our educational qualifications, Immigration Canada expects everyone to have their qualifications, their credentials evaluated. Except your degree is from Canada, you have to send your international certificates and credentials, and those have to be evaluated by WES. Now, WES simply means World Education System, and they are a credential evaluation organization. So we did that. Another thing we had to consider was the funding, the funds, because coming to Canada is not cheap. Back then in 2018, for a family of 3, you needed about 19,000 Canadian dollars as proof of funds, POF. Now, proof of funds is not the running around money. Proof of funds is just the bulk amount set by Immigration Canada that you leave in your account. Proof of funds is the money you're expected to use when you get to Canada. So it stays in your account, and it needs to be in your account for about a minimum of 3 months before your application. You don't touch it while you're here in Nigeria or before you move to Canada. It's supposed to remain in your account. So we did the calculation back then, 19,000 Canadian dollars, using an exchange rate of about 270 Canadian dollar to the Naira. That came up 270 Naira to 1 Canadian dollar, I beg your pardon. That came up to about 5.2 million. So that was money that we just had to put in the account. It just had to sit down there. Then there's also the running around money. You need funds for your IELTS exams, you need funds to send out for your WES evaluation, you need funds for your medicals, you need funds for your police report. You also need to pay for your application once you have all your documents and you send it off. You also need to pay for the right of permanent resident fee. So all in all, we needed about 6 million Naira for a family of 3. Now, if there's just the 2 of you, it will be less. If there's 1 person, less again, depending on the number of people that want to make that move. And as we all know, that 6 million Naira in Nigeria is not beans. So we had to sit down, plan, is this something we can afford? Is this something we want to do? And with a lot of faith and trusting in God, we decided to, okay, let's make the move. So that's about funding. Another big criteria that had to be, we had to sit down and analyze is the NOC criteria. NOC simply means National Occupation Classification. In simple terms, it just means your job, what you do. But this is Canada's way of determining people's occupation. They use codes. Now, someone might be thinking, oh, this is a no-brainer. I know what I do. I'm a teacher or I'm a banker, but it's not that easy. It's not that simple. Now, let me give you an example. My NOC, my job designation before I left Nigeria was communications officer. So what I did was I Googled, in the Google box, I put in NOCs that are very close to communications officer. And when I did that, about 3 or 4 NOCs came out. So you see, it's not that straightforward. It's not just as easy to say my NOC is banking. So what we now did was I now went through my job description, what I did, and I compared it with the different NOCs. In fact, the first NOC I chose was 0124. It seemed very similar to what I was doing, but the educational qualifications for 0124 states that this is a person that doesn't have a master's. So I knew that was not for me because I have a master's. So the other code that looked very similar to my designation was 1123. And when I went over the job description, and it also said for people with a master's, I automatically knew that this was my right NOC. Like I said, you need to really go through it. This can also make or break your application. So that was NOC, and my husband did the same. Now we can always talk about the NOCs in detail if you want me to further break down the nitty-gritty about NOC or WES. Please subscribe to my channel below and just ask me to clarify anything, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So that was NOC done. The next process that was, I've saved the best for the last, was the English proficiency exam. Now, you're going to be tested if you plan on coming to Canada. You're going to be tested based on your English or French, depending on which one you're most comfortable with. Canada is bilingual, so either French or English. For us coming from Nigeria, it was our English exam, and the English exam set by Immigration Canada is the IELTS exam, or what I like to call the almighty IELTS. So in June of 2018, I registered for my IELTS, and I had my first IELTS exam on the 30th of June. Now I'm going to emphasize that this IELTS is no respecter of persons. Listen, you can speak Queen's English on your first degree and second degree is English. If you do not prepare for the IELTS is going to show you pepper. And show me pepper it did. Like I mentioned earlier, my background is communication. So I just studied, in fact, just a little, and I thought to myself, is it not the English I speak every day? Let me go there. But by the time I came out of that exam hall, I knew that I didn't do well, because a lot of things there's a procedure for the exam, and if you don't prepare, you will fail. My husband took the same exam in July, and he did very well, but because he was not the primary applicant, it didn't matter. Well, it mattered. He got us the 20 points, the maximum points a spouse can get for the application is 20 points, and my husband got the 20 points. But myself as a primary applicant, I had to get the maximum points. So we decided that I would rewrite the exam. So that was another 75,000 naira. So we'd spent the first 75,000 naira in June. He wrote it in July, another 75,000 naira, and then I registered to write it in August. This time I did a bit more preparation, and I went to write the exam. And when the results came out, again, I did not reach the cutoff points. Now let me explain these exams in just a little bit. And again, if you want me to explain it further, we can talk about it. Just please subscribe to my channel and send a question, and I would address it. Now, the difference between there's a component in the IELTS called listening. The difference between somebody that obtains an 8/9 in listening and somebody that gets a 7.5/9 in listening is 50 points. So that 0.5 is very important. The difference between plus 0.5 and not having that 0.5 is 50 points. So I did not get the 8/9 that I needed to achieve the 50 points in listening. When we got the results, I remember it so clearly. I was heartbroken, discouraged. I cried the whole day. I was like, Lord, why is this happening? We had spent this amount of money, and so at this point in time, it was, do we get discouraged and do we give up? That was one of the options we had. Do we re-register for another exam? That's another 75,000 naira that we should have been saving. We could have been saving to put in our proof of funds, because we needed to save as much money as we could. Or do we look for another stream of another avenue of coming to Canada? And so we said that's what we're going to do. So we started looking at the provincial nomination programs. These are PMPs. These are programs that are set by the different provinces in Canada. So it's not federal now, this is, you know, province related, you know. But the thing about this PMPs is that the PMPs are very NOC specific. So it's like a province saying, okay, they need teachers or they need nurses. So they would send out invitations to people with this specific NOCs. So we started exploring to see if there was any province that needed our NOC. We explored Manitoba, we explored New Brunswick. New Brunswick is bilingual, by the way, so if you have French, you're proficient in French and English, that's one province to consider. You know, we considered Saskatchewan, and none of these provinces were actually in need of our NOC. So we had to go back to the drawing board. And then now again, the questions start coming. Do we give up? Or the only other option for this, the express entry pathway right now, was to rewrite the IELTS exam for a third time. And because we're so deep with this, you know, preparation and coming to Canada, we thought, okay, I would write, you know, the exam again. This time I said I'm gonna do things a bit different. I took a whole week off work. My husband will leave early in the morning, he'll go to work, he'll drop my daughter in daycare, and immediately they left, I was, you know, practicing IELTS questions. I was just studying and preparing for this, because I thought, you know what, I'm not doing this after this again. So I registered and I retook the exam in October. This time I came out of the hall, I was feeling, you know, I was feeling better, because I thought, you know what, by God's grace, I'm going to do well. So the wait for the results, and the results came out in November. At this juncture, I could not, I was too nervous, you know, after failing it twice, I was too nervous. So we went to the British Council in Abuja, my husband and I told my husband, I'm so nervous, I cannot go inside and get this, you know, please help me. So he went inside to get to get the envelope, and when he was coming back, I was trying to read his face, you know, from the car. I was looking at the mirror, I was trying to see, but he had this expressionless face. And I was thinking to myself, what is it now? At least smile or frown. Let me know which, you know, what my case is. He sat down in the car and he gave me the envelope, and I opened it. The maximum points you get is 9 for each component of the exam. So for the listening component, I got 9/9, reading 9/9, speaking 9 out of 9, and then writing, the almighty writing, 6.5. When I saw it, my heart caught a bit. But this time we did something different. We gave thanks, you know, in the car there. We thank God, because this was, I had done much better, you know, than the previous 2 exams. But again, let me explain, you know, a little bit about the IELTS. Now, the difference between somebody that gets a 7 in writing and somebody that gets a 6.5 in writing is 50 points. So we were still short of 50 valuable points. After we gave thanks, we sat down again and reconsidered our options. Now, we had the option of remarking, you know, sending the writing component to get remarked. Now, this was a gamble, because remarking is not free. It's 15,000 naira, and there is no guarantee that when your score is remarked, your score is going to go up. It can remain the same, it can go up. There's also a disclaimer before you before you pay for remarking. The tiny, you know, in tiny print, it tells you that a different marker is going to mark it, and that marker can decide to reduce your points. If they see that you didn't even deserve the 6.5, they can decide to reduce it to 6, and that's a further decrease of points. But we prayed about it. We decided to take the leap of faith, and so we sent that component out to be remarked because 50 points were at stake here. So this is from June when I wrote the first exam to November now, because the results were already out. Then a period of wait, an excruciating, took about 4 to 6 weeks, because I think they send it to another country to get marked. I was thinking to myself, Seth, that if I had decided to rewrite this exam in November, the results would have been out, you know, before December. Finally, the results came out. I got an email, I think on the 16th of December 2018, that my results are out, the results for the remarking. I should come and collect it. Again, I couldn't go, so I sent my husband. I asked him to kindly go and pick it up because I thought, you know what, I can't do this again. So he went to pick it up, and he screen grabbed it and he sent it to me. I was at work, and when I opened the message, I saw that, you know, to God be the glory, the 6.5 had been changed to 7. And it asked me to come for my refund, or to expect a refund, because if your score is changed, you know, you actually do get a refund. If your score goes higher, you actually do get, you know, the refund of the 15,000 naira. So in a nutshell, that has been the whole process from, you know, when we started thinking about this in April, when we started talking about it in April 2018. This was December when the remark came out, December, I think 16th or 17th, 2018. So that's a period of 8 months. But let me say that during this time, like I said, we had sent out our West result. The evaluation was back. We had started saving. So we're not just sitting down, we're actually being, you know, progressive. So I'm gonna end it here for this first segment. The next segment, I'm going to talk about what happened after the IELTS, because the IELTS boosted our points by 50. So we're now eligible for an invitation to apply from Immigration Canada. So I'm going to talk about what happens after ITA when your points are complete and you actually receive that invitation to apply. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, Biba's Journey. Don't forget to press the bell icon when you do subscribe, and again, send me your questions. If you have any questions, if you have any anything you want me to talk about in detail, please do. I want to take this in stages. I'm going to talk about being a newbie in Canada, you know, what happened after we got our visas, you know, job applications in Canada. And I'm going to focus on the Atlantic Canada, because that's where we are. And the Atlantic, honestly, is one, you know, location in Canada that has not really been harnessed. So I'm going to do that. Again, please subscribe. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.